drunk and Dad got drunk at our Christmas party. We were drinking champagne punch and homemade eggnog. Little sister brought her new boyfriend. He was a Mexican. We didn't know what to think of him till he sang Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad. Brother Ken brought his kids with him, the 3 from his first wife Lynn, and the 2 identical twins from his second wife Mary Nell. Of course, he brought his new wife Kay, who talks all about AA, chain smoking while the stereo plays Noel, Noel, the first Noel. Caught the turkey, turned the ball game on, mixed margaritas when the eggnog's gone. Send somebody to the quick pack store. We need some ice and an extension cord, a can of bean dip and some diet rides, a box of tampons, some Marlboro Lights. Hallelujah, everybody say cheese. Merry Christmas from the family. Fran and Rita drove from Harlingen. I can't remember how I'm kin to them, but when they tried to plug their motorhome in, they blew our Christmas lights. Cousin David knew just what went wrong, so we all waited out on our front lawn. He threw a breaker and the lights came on, and we sang Silent Night, oh, Silent Night. The turkey, turn the ball game on, make Bloody Marys, cause we all want one. Send somebody to the stop and go. We need some celery and a can of fake snow, a bag of lemons and some diet Sprites, a box of tampons, some Salem Lights. Hallelujah, everybody say cheese. Merry Christmas from the family. Feliz
Good old boys.
Mark.
Bog beef. Oh man, I love that song.
I can't remember how we're kin to them. That's what I'm. How many family get to go you've been in where you like, yeah, that's Dave. He's
That's true. I don't know how that works, but yeah, it is true. I mean, people end up calling him aunt or uncle or something, but you don't really know. Merry Christmas, everybody. We won't be long tonight. We normally, when we do Christmas specials and big specials and stuff, they go all night long, but not this one. I mean, this is like before Christmas and all that stuff. But I still wanted to do it. I feel like I said before, I feel like there's an obligation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You want, this is got, I'm gonna sound lame, but we got a community. We got people we talk to, weekly. Fredo's not here, obviously, because he's on a plane. But we made a lot of friends doing this. We look a lot of names popping up in this chat that we see every week who lend their time to listen to us. And that is something. That's more than just selling a product,
Yeah, we're still here, by the way. I mean, and this, I'm not hating on anything. Obviously, it's the incentives for staying together as a podcast and stuff. They're probably not very strong. Like, I think the reason why we're still together is because we knew each other before podcasting. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the real dream was we brought in some of our old friends too. When we did the Huey Long episode and the X-Files series with the guy. You and I have known him as long as we've known each other, 20 years.
I listened to the last X-Files one the other day, and it's just like, that's just what we did all the time. That's just three friends talking together. And I'm sure you can tell as an audience, it's not always like that. There's a lot of, it's a cheat code. I mean, it's not really fair. It's the kind of thing, like, I don't know, in business, there's like, there's like family nepotism and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, when I had good like SAT scores and shit like that, but like, nobody in my family been to college or nothing. You don't know what you're supposed to do. Other people, they might, their dad is already an engineer or something. He's like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. And is it fair? No, but I mean, the world probably wouldn't work if it doesn't. Same way. It's not really fair. I mean, that we were friends before doing podcasts, but
fair or not, it used to be that, like, if your dad was a carpenter, his last name was Carpenter, and your ass is going to be a carpenter too. That was pretty much how it worked, right?
Yeah.
Is that nepotism?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, because I don't know what I was going to say about that. Is someone did a post like a month ago, or whatever, and they were like, they were talking about that they liked podcasts like Good Old Boys, but all the rest of them are out of business, so they needed some more ideas because everybody else is gone. And that's not hating or anything. There's the incentives for running a podcast are slim. It's anybody can do it. That's generally not a good idea. We tell people we get hated on a lot. Is people said we tell everybody to become a plumber. You heard that one?
I never remember giving anybody employment advice on the podcast, but yeah, I've heard that accusation before.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, so we were someone at some point someone asked about getting in the trades or whatever, and I said, well, you shouldn't do it unless if you're like a honky, a white guy, or someone with a U.S. citizenship. You shouldn't do it unless you become a plumber or a or electrician. It's in the South. I know when I say that, there's people that live in like North Dakota or whatever. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I make big stacks as a framer or something. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you're not really competing against immigrant labor yet. That's like, no hate against them. We're friends with people that are in union construction, and they're like, why would you start, forget being a plumber, forget being a electrician, just join the union. I mean, you must be basically in New York City or God knows where else, because I mean, in terms of the number of major cities where they're like, you can just be a union construction worker. I mean, that is very small. Or you're working on like, you're doing the plumbing at like, military bases or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not working in a residential area, whatever, in the union. Like, no one's paying. Like, no home builder's contractor's gonna pay for union labor.
That's a good point, because around here we do have a lot of trade guys who aren't union who get paid well, but the ones I can all think of, they work for local branches of, well, one is a Fortune 500 company, and the others are like,
they do commercial.
Yes, national industrial stuff. So like, yeah, like they're not doing drywall and in the housing development. They might be hanging drywall for, I won't
Goldman
say the name.
Sachs or something. Yeah.
Well, yeah, nothing like that. But people who make stuff, but yeah. Oh well, here's like Tenneco, like Walker. They might be doing stuff there, but that ain't the same thing. You have a lot. You got. I'm pretty sure you got. This shows you how little I know about the trades. I'm pretty sure you got totally different requirements to work in that compared to like pretty much anybody can subcontract whatever they want to anybody when it comes to like you're building a house, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's even a lot of regulations, which is that's part of the reason why hanging drywall or working in a turkey plant. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, that's the thing. The being an electrician and being a plumber, there's nothing special about being a plumber or an electrician. I mean, there's a little bit, but it's not like being like it's not like being a carpenter is easy. I mean, that's hard ass work, and you takes years to learn how to be great at that. But the difference is there's a certification, but the certification doesn't matter. It's just a proxy for citizenship. You just cut out like 90% of your competition when you have that. And the libs have figured this out. So, I mean, like, we talk about like, we get a lot of heat for saying like, and I've never say like, politics is determined by your class position. That's not really it. But I mean, for example, you will notice that people that have some kind of certification or degree or union thing protecting their job care a hell of a lot less about immigration. They don't give a shit. In fact, they may even like it because they'll be like, hell, people making my sandwiches are cheaper, and you're not going to take my job as a librarian or something because you can't hop off a boat and do that. Right.
This is a good point that you could have this conversation almost on any podcast that we do because it comes up. The problem with having one specific explanation for everything is that it doesn't work. Like there are other variables. Now, I mean, I know that we're the patronage guys. We're not supposed to say that, right? Mm-hmm. But this obviously does play into it. If your class position or whatever makes so that like having people who can work in like again poultry plants for nothing means that your chicken cutlets are going to cost half as much as they would, and it doesn't affect your job, then you're going to have a way different opinion about that than you are anybody else. So somebody else who's competing for a job in the poultry industry, working in the trades, driving an Uber, delivering food, working in a restaurant, pretty much all these things that now it's almost a meme that they're like some immigrant person from Latin America is doing that job now. And not to bring it down because it's Christmas, but the numbers of the people coming in this year have been insane, right? It's not a problem in the past tense. It's going to get worse.
And the issue I have with this is like, so if you point this out, you're some kind of terrorist or something like that, and it's like, okay, why isn't the implication here is that like perhaps the people on Martha's Vineyard or whatever, they're not really that interested in stopping immigration. They're just not. I mean, what do you want me to do? They're just not. And so like that's not my problem. So like your job, if you're someone that's trying to bring together the white people or whatever, why don't you go work on them? Why don't you leave me alone? Because isn't this their fucking problem? I mean, isn't it? Like, why is the outreach never towards them? Not like, I can't, like, nobody in Martha's Vineyard is going to listen to me.
the last time this came up today, and we were in private, and you kind of answered your own questions. Like, I don't think that the people who are making this, the people who make this argument represent anything but like a really small number of people online. Like, kind of like, people say this about libertarians, that like this is a ideology that appeals to like just this tiny sliver of people who don't. Like, if you're talking about the X's and O's of politics that don't really matter, you can just pretend they don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like, like, the go-to used to be monarchists, but I think now monarchists probably have more sway than the people you're talking about, because like Jacobin is running a hit piece on Curtis Yarvin today and attacking the threat of the royalist menace. It's just around the corner. Going to reform the Stuart monarchy.
So people bring up welders. Yeah, shout out to welders. My dad was a welder for many years.
My uncle was a welder.
I've heard it's not good for your eyes, but
it's not. My uncle actually just recently, like his eye started kind of bleeding, and he went to the doctor to have this. Obviously you go to the doctor to find out what's wrong, and their working theory is that he got metal in his eyeball working. 50. It could have been 50 years ago, and it's causing him problems today.
That's fucking scary, man.
Yeah.
There's so many things working around metal. It does. I've got to get in between the door jambs of my the seam, like the little door gutter in the car door window, and get in there with a wire brush, and like any of those tiny little wires, they can bounce right into your eye, and boom, you're having bad times. But anyways, I wanted to talk about
I want to say something. You just reminded me.
Mm-hmm.
So we're having what's up, buddy?
Mic check.
Hello.
Hey, we got you on camera. I don't know if you wanted to or not.
It's fine. I won't be here too long. What's happening?
Not much. What's going on, Gord?
We just had our first family movie night ever, where we let the kids watch a movie and we all sat in bed, and my wife is trying to put them to sleep. We're gonna wrap Christmas presents, and I don't know. We'll see if I can't chase Mama around before I pass out.
What was the movie?
Polar Express.
I haven't seen that one.
I guess it's old. It's a classic for kids. I suppose. I don't know. I don't see too. Obviously, since until having children, it wasn't a genre I explored very much. Right. So who's all here?
It's just the three of us right now.
This was last year we spent a couple weeks throwing out invites and stuff. This time it's just low key. We're not gonna be out here long, but I just want to. This is if you don't know him, that's Gord. He's autonomoustruckers.substack.com. Yeah, he's a prolific writer. Well reviewed by Ann Coulter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I see that Charles got the Ann, the mark of Ann last week as well. That was great.
That was dope. Yes, she's hard to please. I mean, she doesn't do that for everybody, man.
No. Fun fact: Ann Coulter is a Cornell alumnus, so she went to the same university as my wife, which is 8 miles from where I'm sitting.
Nice.
Yeah, it's you never know. It's weird. Cornell's had a few interesting peeps. Bill Maher went there too. Carl Sagan, obviously. Apparently, I got invited to do a Zoom meeting with through this lady whose book I'm reviewing right now, and there's all these like sort of nerdy grad student types on it, and like I was token blue collar friend for real this time.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady who wrote this book she's a professor at Cornell. Acquired over time. And no cigarettes either. I've never had one to my mouth. People think I smoke. It's hilarious.
I've got a dip in right now.
That's a big thing up here. A lot of the chuds around these parts chew dip. It's something else I don't do, but
You shouldn't.
Anyway, one of these. Oh man, where was I going with this? One of these nerds mentioned something about the father of deregulation being some economics professor at Cornell. Like, I don't know how many gazillions of years ago, and I can't remember the guy's name. I didn't write it down, but I guess the whole, like, in the 1970s, when the economy was in the doldrums and the right decided to regroup by going, free market economics. Apparently, this one professor at Cornell was like one of the eggheads that produced that movement.
Was it Alfred Kahn?
Maybe. I like I said, I can't remember, man. I wasn't paying 100% attention and wasn't taking notes.
I got a question. Somebody, I was having a conversation out there in the wild about cab overs. Somebody told me that cab overs ride rough. Yeah, what do you think about that?
I think that's BS. A cab over. Well, okay. So it depends on the wheelbase. As you know, because you're a car guy, the longer the wheelbase, the better the ride. So like you guys speak a lot about, early 1970s, 1960s, like boatmobiles, like a Cadillac Eldorado. The reason
with the Boulevard ride.
That's right. And the reason they rode so well is because they had a long wheelbase that helped. So the problem with cab overs, such as there might be one, is a lot of the older model cab overs had a really short wheelbase. But if you get a cab over with like a 200 or 244 inch wheelbase and an air ride suspension, it's just fine. And a lot of the ride when you're driving a big truck is also dependent on how the trailer is loaded. So if you're pulling heavy, like if you're always maxed out, like you're not hauling toilet paper or something, how your trailer is loaded will have more influence on the ride you experience in the tractor than anything about the tractor.
Didn't know that. So this is, I drove a 24-foot straight truck for 10 years. And at that level, the cab overs were very rough. What's a 24-foot straight truck?
A straight truck is, there's no trailer. That's a straight truck, straight job. It's just a way of saying like, it's a truck. You got your cab that you drive and the hood and the engine and all that. And then the cargo body is immediately behind it.
Coca-Cola trucks around here, stuff like that.
Yeah. Coke trucks, dump trucks, there's all kinds of straight jobs around. So what are you fellas doing this weekend?
I was just, when you joined, I was just about to start complaining. So this morning, tried to open my door, and I tried to open my door because it was frozen shut. I had to shoulder tackle it open. Went out to the car. Car door was frozen shut. I was like, what? I had to bang on that to get the open.
So a little trick from one of your northern friends here is I can't do anything about the door to your house, but I always right around October or November, I'll go down to AutoZone or the hardware store, and I'll buy like 2 cases of windshield washer fluid, right? So I'll have like 12 jugs, and I'll get a little spray bottle like for Windex or something, and I'll have a couple of them full. And what you do is you spray the windshield washer fluid into your keys if you can't get your key unlocked. And then if like the whole car is covered in frost or ice or something, just dump it on there and it'll all come loose in a couple minutes.
You see, well, that's the kind of wisdom that we need, because I'm in the South. It gets cold here because I'm in the mountains sometimes, but like right now it's 5 degrees. And that's one of those things where that's cold in no matter if you do it Fahrenheit or Celsius, that's still cold.
Right. Yeah. 5 Fahrenheit is about right around -13, -14 Celsius. And more useless factoids, which are in fact useful. Um, the Society of Automotive Engineers, um, the guys that do your set all your standards for cars and trucks and whatnot. Like if you go and you buy a jug of oil and it says SAE 5W30 or 1540 or whatever,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
According to those guys, cold starts apply at -14 Celsius. At -14 Celsius, oil, when you hit the starter and turn the engine over, is no longer lubricating. It's just kind of there until the engine warms up. So yeah, 5 degrees Fahrenheit, you're now down, you're getting into territory where that's considered a cold start.
I knew somebody who was from Michigan or Minnesota. I forget which one she was from, but it was one of those places where it gets really cold. Like it gets colder than Alaska in some of those places. And she said that they would have, when she was a kid in school, there'd be days where you just didn't go to school, not because the school buses couldn't like navigate through the snow and ice, because it was just too cold to start the school bus.
I would imagine, but like if you live in a place like Minnesota or Michigan, they have them plugged in or they keep them in a shed. I used to deliver when I was still hauling propane. One of my customers was like a local school district that used propane for like 90% of their buses. And they had this big, huge garage. And on a really cold night, they would pack all the school buses in there to make sure they would start the next morning.
Yeah.
Or, a lot of like bus companies or trucking companies, if you park your trucks outside, you put them up against the fence, they'll have power run out there and you just plug in a block heater.
Yeah, diesel doesn't even like a little cold, right?
Well, it makes it more difficult to start the engine, and then diesel engines don't run properly until they're like at temperature, right?
Yeah.
A gasoline driven engine, like once you start it, it'll basically run cold and do what it needs to do, and it doesn't need that much time to warm up, and it'll still put out the horsepower and torque without being warmed up. A diesel engine won't. A diesel engine has to operate at temperature, and it takes longer for them to warm up. Another thing that diesel engines do, any trucker will tell you this, in the wintertime, your fuel mileage takes a hit because the cold fuel coming into the motor just doesn't burn quite as well. So your fuel mileage will actually go down. So no, diesel does not like the cold.
This reminds me, Gord. I'm sure you saw this. People were posting about it. The EU is going to move to charge individuals for their carbon footprint. Did you see this?
Oh, I heard something about it on a podcast this morning. Actually, yeah.
One of the things they were going to do, like they were laying out exactly what would like how this would affect people, and one of them was the price of gas is going to go up 10 cents a liter, like immediately following that, which is like that's a hell of a, and 12 cents a liter for diesel.
They don't need an excuse. Tigzar's talked about like basically Europe is like a huge scam run on gas prices. Obviously, even in a place like that, you need gas for everything. And they've just decided to like every time they run out of money, they're like, let's tax gas a little more again. Let's tax gas a little more again. And now, they're like at $12 a quart and a half or whatever they sell it in, because it sure as hell ain't a gallon.
No, it's by the liter. It's like 3.7 or 3.9 liters to a gallon. So basically, like if they're taxing an extra 10 cents, just multiply it times 4. So it's 40 cents a gallon more in taxes.
Yeah.
Trudeau's going to do that too. There's been a big bone of contention in Canada because Trudeau's been making noise about imposing a bunch of different carbon taxes. And I guess the schedule is to vote on them in Parliament and have them imposed by April. So, life up north is going to get even more expensive.
Is this like, I wonder if in history this has ever happened before where, like, what they're doing is just a tax. It's just like, if King George, right, or not King George, go back further than that. If like King Richard just said, "I'm levying a tax on everybody because I need to pay for a war or whatever," you give me this money, or I'm going to send a knight to break your kneecaps and decapitate you with the broadsword. But like, I wonder if in history did any sovereign ever think, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say I'm levying this tax, like for the good of the world. Like this is, I'm putting an excise tax on I don't know skinned hogs, and I'm doing this to make God happy because he
Like
thinks
nobody would dare have the sack for that.
well, I mean, they didn't have to. Also, but like this is like the dumbest thing you could imagine. You're going to tax people and you tell them, well, this is for your own good. It's for the environment.
Yeah, no comment. I've already been called by the RCMP once.
Yeah, we won't get you in legal trouble.
You know what's funny is this Twitter files thing that's been coming out over the last few weeks. I mean, maybe I've just been like too autistic or damaged by it all, whatever. I've come to find out, like, on my previous Twitter account, I didn't pay too much attention to Canadian political Twitter just because, like, I'm an angry expat and I hate everything about home. But I've come to discover that, like, not only did I get canned over Freedom Convoy stuff, a whole bunch of people up north did too, that like I wasn't aware of until recently. And it's come to my attention that there was a whole bunch of like Canadian political Twitter accounts that all got basically bonked the same weekend I did. And now that the Twitter files has revealed that, you know, the FBI and CIA and DHS and all these people are balls deep in Twitter and Facebook and everywhere else, everyone up north is now assuming that at some level the RCMP or CSIS have got some connection with Twitter as well, and that's what happened to a bunch of us that were talking about Freedom Convoy.
Somebody says, Gord, you got a license for that beer.
Lakeside Lager. It's if we're gonna believe in carbon and whatnot, liquid is really heavy and is carbon intensive to move around. And this brewery is 6 miles from my house, so I'm helping the environment here.
You're saving the world right now. Yeah,
I'm saving the world. I'm doing the Justin Trudeau beer drinking. So there's my license right there.
All right, I've got to do a poll because we were talking to HTML Mingan the other day, and I was sort of having to do some study, and you know he's a big expert on the blogosphere, like the 2000s and 2010 stuff and all that kind of thing. And
I'll be there in a minute.
You had all these if you got to go, just let us know. But back in the day, you know, they had all these feminist blogs and all this kind of stuff, and they would always talk about the toxic male behavior. And I think all the three of us here you could describe us as toxic. And it made me think about, you know, living in a bubble, because it's like they would always say that, you know, these are the things that the toxic males do. They're, you know, they're loud and, you know, disagreeable and stuff like that. And one of the things they would say is they love and they're always watching these goddamn Woody Allen movies. All these just tough masculine men. They're just always watching these Woody Allen movies. And I just
my wife thinks you guys are talking about her.
No, I don't. You're looking at me and laughing. So you're laughing at. You
and I remember,
are laughing at me.
yeah, and someone says, and reading, and someone says, and reading David Foster Wallace. I remember thinking, I was like, you know, there are probably years that pass by where I've never seen a Woody Allen movie, that I'd never interact with another male that's seen a Woody Allen movie. I don't know. And I'm sure there's things that I'm in a bubble about too, but have you ever seen a Woody Allen movie?
Negative.
I have, but it was a newer one. It was Midnight in Paris. And the premise of the movie is that this guy goes, I don't know, back in time to like 1920s Paris. It's not really the typical Woody Allen movie.
Did it raise your testosterone?
yeah. I had to shave right after I watched it. It was
I'm obviously I'm aware of Woody Allen, and I guess he's famous. I don't think I've ever seen one of his films, but when I look at that guy, like testosterone is not what the first thing that comes to mind. I'm sorry, it's just an observation.
I hear you. I just had to do a reality check. You know, I'm reading this stuff. I'm like, I don't know. This doesn't really match my my thing here.
Your lived experience, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Dude, last week, man, I went to go look at this truck, dude. Let me tell you about this truck. This truck was 1985 Ford Bullnose with the inline 6 four speed 4x4. It was a step side. It was beautiful. And
when you say inline 6, you mean the 4.9 liter like indestructible gas engine?
It was a 300 cubic inch. So that's probably a lot.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, it's a 4.9 liter. Yep, that's exactly it.
And this guy, he had a little farm down there in Georgia, and it was the kind of thing where it's he's just hauling hay around on he's had very low miles on it, and he wanted $4,500, and I had $4,500, and we get ready to do the deed, and the son of a bitch didn't have a title.
Oh man.
I had already mapped out the rest of my life living with this truck.
Well, no kidding. And you could do that because those motors, that 300 cubic inch inline 6 was probably one of the best gasoline powered engines ever conceived by man. Everybody I've ever known that's had one of those things got 400,000 miles out of them.
Absolutely. You don't want the V8. You want that nice little inline 6. You can get in there and you can work on it. You can do anything you want to it. So it says, can't you retitle the vehicle? You don't want to get in that bullshit. I mean, you don't know what liens are on that thing, or if his ex-wife is really owns it. And if you buy that truck and roll off with that truck, let's say you stole it. So, but son of a bitch, I had already imagined myself, going on the honeymoon, living my life with this truck forever and ever. It was the most beautiful.
Did you try and do a deal where you said, like, listen here, dude, I know you don't have the title, and that's a bummer. Just sell me the motor. I'll give you like $1,000 for the engine, and just pull the motor out of it and put it in something else, because that would probably be one of the best purchases you ever made.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna find another one of that. I'm gonna get an 86 Bullnose Ford there with the inline 6. I don't want the V8.
So the nice thing, the thing that sucks about living up north, and like, okay, I'm in upstate New York, and this happens all across the Midwest and the north section of America and in Canada, is the salt on the roads.
Mm-hmm.
I get why they do it, and they kind of have to because of the weather in the wintertime. And it's also easy because there's a massive salt deposit like underneath New York State, Ohio, Southern Ontario into Michigan. There's a huge salt mine underneath the city of Detroit. There's salt all the way across Michigan, under Lake Michigan. Like, there's just salt everywhere, and it's easily accessible and it's cheap. The problem is in throwing it on the roads here for 6 months out of the year, it just destroys everything. And there's no old vehicles here. And if you do see an old vehicle, it's because a guy has two. He has the nice old one that he keeps in the garage all winter, brings it out in May or June, drives it around until October, and then puts it away again. Because if he tries to drive it here in the winter, he soon won't have it.
Yeah. And if you're like in Canada, winter is, it isn't just a month or two.
No. Well, I mean, it started snowing here. We got a pretty major snowfall around Thanksgiving, and I think there was like one minor one before that. We got pummeled with snow yesterday, and then it turned to rain, then it turned to snow again, and then it went from like when I left, I unloaded over in Cortland, then came home. It was 40 degrees when I left the mill, and by the time I got home, it was 27, and now it's like 8.
Yeah.
It's just the weather's been super crazy. Cortland, New York, home of Ronnie James Dio. Do you remember that tweet?
Oron McIntyre loves Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah, I know a bunch of you guys, and I think I remember listening to one of your shows, and it might have been Fredo who was talking about Ronnie, and I didn't know this. I went to so my little sister, I have two sisters and a brother. Totally coincidental to me living here. My dad's second wife is American, and the universe does crazy things to you. And so my dad's second wife grew up an hour away from my own first and only wife is from, but that's totally coincidental. There's no relationship to that. And I have a half brother and half sister that live down here. So anyway, I'm at my sister Logan's place at her husband, and her husband's best friend is over visiting, and we're partying in the basement, jamming out, listening to tunes, and he puts on like what was the one band that Dio was in? Not Black Sabbath, but it was like something else.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not my kind of music.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, Dio. I mean, so he's in Dio. I mean,
Dio Rainbow or something. Anyway, a Dio song comes on, and he says to me, he says, "Hey man, did you know Ronnie James Dio's from Cortland?" I'm like,
Rainbow.
Yeah, I have no idea. And he told me about it, so I looked it up on Wikipedia, and sure enough, his parents are from Cortland. I think he was born in New Hampshire or something, but when he was really little, they moved back to Cortland, and he went to high school and college in Cortland, and then took off for his career in music. But yeah, like 28 miles from my house.
Did we tell you? Did we talk to him about the Claudius connection, Merrick?
Which connection?
Let's see. Well, there was the new. All right, so you live near Appalachian, right?
Oh yeah, you sent me an email about this. Yeah, so there's a town. So there's Appalachia, which is the term for the mountains and the whole region on the east coast of the U.S. And then there's this town in upstate New York called Appalachian. It's pronounced Appalachian, not Appalachian.
Mm-hmm.
and it's spelled a little bit differently. And that's like, yeah, it's 30 miles as the crow flies from me in the opposite direction to Cortland. So it's south of me.
Okay, we'll talk about that one off the air. Yeah, let's do that. So people asking about the Kenworth. If you're wearing somebody's merchandise, people, it's they're like, is he strictly a Kenworth guy? What's going on? Oh, what's going on with that?
Well, it was a free Tim Pool like beanie. The people I used to work for in Syracuse had a lot of Kenworths, and they gave it to me. I am a Kenworth stan. I'm a Packard stan. Kenworth and Peterbilt Uber Alice. With
the Caterpillar motor.
Oh, preferably. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Cat don't make diesel engines for on-highway applications anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to have a guest soon that's going to discuss this.
Yeah. Hopefully you and the guest. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. But yeah, Kenworth beanie, Tim Pool. So get this. I actually met Tim Pool once. I'm in a video with him. I should look it up on YouTube and send it to you guys. So my beautiful wife, who just panned through the back here a couple minutes ago, when I first met her, she lived in New York City. So she was a teacher in Queens, and she lived in Brooklyn. When we first started seeing each other, I would get down there once in a blue moon to visit her. We had like this long distance relationship. But anyway, the first weekend I ever went to visit her in New York City was when Occupy Wall Street was on. No, for real, in 2011. So
no, but I'm thinking about this because if you're a good old boy, I remember seeing like when you first come up on that. I wasn't there. I saw pictures and stuff. They got all the people in the drum circles and stuff, and they're chanting. I mean, you're a good old boy. I'm sure you're like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, well, it was. I've had a very long and interesting ideological journey, and I've never, yeah. Anyway, I'm at Occupy Wall Street, and I spent a long weekend in New York, so I was down there for 4 or 5 days, and I was a fan at the time. There was like when YouTube first started out, and it was this new medium, and people were making all these crazy videos. There were these guys in Australia called Rap News. Do you guys ever heard of that?
Yes,
Mm-mm.
I remember those guys.
Yeah, they did like I think they only ever did like 20 or maybe 24 videos, and then the two guys that ran it kind of went their separate ways. But like in their heyday, I was following them on Facebook, and all of a sudden this call pops up on Facebook like, "Hey, we're gonna film at Zuccotti Park." And I'm like, well, hold on, aren't you guys in Melbourne? But they found some guy with a video camera in New York City to go and film on location in Zuccotti Park, and they put out like a casting call of Rap News fans that may have been in New York City to like show up. So they like gave us all this guy's phone number or his email address or whatever, and said we're going to be here on this day. We're going to film. And I rolled down there, and my wife came with me. It was on a Saturday. She was off work, and one of the people that showed up was Tim Pool, and I had no idea who he was.
Was he wearing the beanie back then too?
Yes, he was. And so we end up being in this Rap News video. I think it's episode 10, and it's on like Occupy Wall Street. I can't remember the whole. I got to look it up. But if you watch it, there's like a live shoot from Zuccotti Park across the street from it, according to my wife. And like Tim Pool is wearing, there's a guy wearing the Guy Fawkes mask, and then you can see Tim. And anyway, I'm yeah. I think it's Rap News episode 10. I'll have to look it up and send it to you guys.
Yeah.
Was your wife doing the Occupy Wall Street protest when you met her?
Well, I mean, she was mildly interested in it. I mean, she is a progressive and a public school teacher, so now she's giving me the fingers.
Progressive's a demon, isn't it?
Yeah, so her and her friend Erica were like mildly involved in it, I want to say. Like they went to meetings, and I mean, the problem with Occupy was it was just like too many things. They weren't like focused. And I remember her friend Erica said they went to a meeting one time, and it was just too much, too chaotic. And I mean, I went to Zuccotti Park because, like, even being a good old boy, like we're all interested in this stuff, right? And it's like a major happening.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I wanted to go check it out, and I went down there, and there was like a bunch of Ron Paul type people, and I went to after I saw my wife that weekend, a couple weekends later, I went to the Toronto Occupy Wall Street thing, and there was a bunch of Ron Paul people there in fucking Canada. So like,
yeah, it went out of control, but there was, I mean, or who knows what it did, but
well, the genesis of it was they were yelling at Wall Street and banks, in which that's pretty popular with almost everybody. Well, Occupy was funny because it was the first time I ever remembered seeing like the insane stuff that we see now constantly. Like, they call it woke or whatever. That was the first time you really saw it, because they would have these little group, like we're doing everything democratic. Yeah, I'm doing that right now too. The jazz hands, and some SJW maniac will be like, I got my jazz hands up. I think we should talk about how this is indigenous land. And it's like, you could tell, none of this is going to make any difference, because these people can just come in and just destroy anything by saying their crazy shit, and you're not allowed to tell them to shut up.
Also, Tim Pool, I don't know people. Tim Pool, if you're interested in politics, like a lot, like if you're listening to this, or you're aware of things past like the mainstream stuff, Tim Pool is huge. He's huge. I mean, there's like more people watch Tim Pool's show than like every single person that's not on cable TV combined. Go look at, I've heard some people claim his numbers are somehow fake or whatever, but if you look at his numbers on YouTube, It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, he is
It's
very
not
much
Rogan
prosperous.
numbers, but he's up there.
He's freaking up there.
Yeah, I don't like. I understand how popular Mr. Poole is, and I've never been able to wrap my head around like some of the like YouTube and Rumble and Odyssey and like people with these channels. I guess it's just because like I'm an audio guy and I don't have time, right? Like when I come home, I'm usually busy with wife and kids. You know, maybe I can check in with the computer for 10 minutes, whatever. And then I'm on the road all the time. So I'm always like audio casts. So anyone that does like an exclusively YouTube or video based thing, I can't pay attention to it too much. Like obviously I've heard of Tim Pool. I met him. But like I can't quite 100%. Oh yeah, that's us. I'm right behind Guy Fawkes guy to the left, and then my wife is the only female in the photo, and then Tim Pool, his beanie is being hidden by the hoodie. He's got a little mustache.
Gord looks almost exactly the same today. Look at that. He hasn't aged in 10 years.
Thank you. Yeah, that was I right? Was that Rap News 10 or 8 or what number was that?
2012 is all I see on here. I don't have to.
Okay. Yeah, you guys are quick. Pardon me. I've been sick. So another little contentious issue here. I don't know how you guys are, but like I've had a stomach bug. I got bat flu again, and now I have a cold that won't let me go. And it's just, is everybody sick where you are too, or is it just up north?
I got something, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. The flu's been going around ever since 2020. It's been going around. He's like, I get it once a year now, at least.
Yeah, I never used to get that sick. I mean, one of the reasons my voice is the way it is like I seem to get strep throat like once every other year, and I've been getting strep since I was a kid. So
you still have your tonsils?
Yeah.
They took mine out when I kept getting strep throat when I was a kid, and they took mine out.
I still got mine.
They left mine in, which might explain why I sound the way I do, but whatever. But like I'm a pretty healthy dude, and until Wuhan plague came along and screwed everything up. Oh my God, I can't. This is why I can't have nice things. My wife is always interrupting me from across the house.
Yeah, well, flu season doesn't really get peaking until like February.
We're about to have our first on-screen DV incident. It's gonna be great. Coming with the rolling pin, and that's it for Gord.
Anyway, I'm tired of being sick, and I attribute some of it to like, viral effery due to all of the like screw ups humanity has suffered in the last couple of years. But anyway,
yeah, working bad jobs. You always have, especially if you're working a job with a lot of people and a lot of people around, like in a restaurant or something like that. There'll be times where everybody in the whole workplace gets sick, and all they do is they just keep most in these kinds of environments. People tell me you got to take that vitamin C. You that powder or that drink or whatever, that vitamin C stuff. The people keep offering it to me, and they're like puking all over themselves, and so you'll feel like $1 million. You get this vitamin C. You get this vitamin C. And I'm like, I don't know, man. It doesn't look like it's working for you, bro.
It's helpful to an extent. I mean, the whole vitamin D thing is contentious, but it's mostly true. There's certain vitamins that, like, if you're low on them, your immune function suffers. But like, it depends.
Zinc, right?
Too. Yes, zinc is one of them. I have a couple of like friends that are in the natural medicine space. Oh my God, I'm talking like a shitlib. One of my friends is really highly specialized in that, and he was saying that like not all supplements are equal, because certain things are more bioavailable to your body depending on like where they extracted the vitamins and stuff from and what it's made of. And That's all a little bit too deep for my skull, but I guess that means something. So
Yeah. Somebody says Bog's probably overdosing on vitamin C without fruity meat. So, yeah, man. If you live in Florida and you don't eat a lot of oranges, I don't know. There's something wrong with you. You just kind of got to. Thick Imby keeps bringing up the chicken feet broth.
By the way, he earlier today he did one of his AI prompts where he said make a Santa Claus detective noir pulp novel cover.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's pretty damn good.
Uh-oh.
That robot knows something.
Uh-oh. It's gonna be taking them PMC jobs soon.
Yeah, or vitamin D. Yeah, I mean vitamin D is another one. But if you ain't drinking, well, I mean, whatever. Maybe you have a lactose intolerance or whatever. But if you don't, you should be drinking milk, and you get all the vitamin D you need.
Yeah. Yeah. Big milk drinker. So, how's everybody's Christmas going? Visit all the family and got all your stuff done?
No, I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to visit tomorrow. I mean, yeah, it's the 23rd. What?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been working and stuff, so I'll be out there tomorrow, running the roads.
I wanted to ask you something. A Christmas. We have like a little list that we do for our.
Hang on a second. By the way, working man L when Christmas falls on a weekend. By the way.
Yeah, that's like getting cheated out of a day off.
It is. Oh yeah, no, that was a bit of bone of contention around here too, because like, the timber industry around here has been a little bit slow and inconsistent the last couple of months, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we've got like 4 loggers working with huge piles of wood that all want them moved, and they all want it moved next week. So like, even though all the mills that there's a small handful of mills we deal with. All of them are closed on Monday, but we're working Monday anyway because my buddy Roy's got the self loaders, so I'm going to chase him around, and he's going to unload us. We'll just drop the wood off in the yard at the mill, even though nobody's there. And like I'm working Monday, so I got hosed hardcore.
Bad times, yeah.
Yeah. Go
ahead, Merrick.
Okay, so we have whenever we do a live show, we got a list of things that we talk about.
Hang on a second. We got a union asshole in here letting us know that he gets his days in lieu. So yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Congratulations. We've had this one on the list for like a month now, and we never have time to get to it. And my Christmas present, I demand for you to explain this story to me, because you put it on the list.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, I want to know more about this story.
I can't tell you. I've had some. It's too deep.
Okay. Is the Carnival Mafia going to come after us?
No. I didn't know you were going to pop this. I would have read up on it. I kind of wanted to.
You don't know either. Okay.
Yeah.
The headline. I'll just read the headline for them. Carnival Mafia murders rock a small Arkansas community. That's it. That's all we know about the story. But Merry Christmas.
If anybody has questions, if you don't have questions, we can close out. I didn't want to go all night. Someone says, I want to know from Bog, how do Deep South kids feel about Santa and the White Christmas thing? I can't imagine not having classic winters. So what's like growing out without iconography and the experience? Well, it's an issue. And I mean, that song we played at the beginning, Merry Christmas from the Family, that Robert Earl Keen said he wrote that song because he was growing up and he's like,
Houston,
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, he grew up in Houston. He's like, and basically Houston is the same as all the rest of the Gulf Coast. It's just one big thing. You drive from Houston to Lafayette to Pensacola, it's all the same shit. And he says like, and he's like growing up, he's like, I don't know what he said, I saw a chestnut like for the first time 2 weeks ago at the organic grocery store. Cause now I'm a rock star. But other than that, I've never seen a sleigh. I don't know what any of this shit is. So he wrote that song so that people in the South would have a Christmas song they could relate to, because we don't know what any of this stuff is. I've never seen a sleigh in my life. I've seen snow like a half dozen times, and I had to travel for it. So yeah, it's an issue. It's a real issue.
The chestnut thing, that's just because all the American chestnut trees died out like 100 years ago because of a blight that got introduced when some idiot started growing Chinese chestnut trees in the United States.
Did you? I posted about that. Cole Healing replied. Shout out to Cole Healing. He replied with that thing. He showed the pic. Did you see what the chestnut trees used to look like? They were beautiful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got fucking family album photos that have old chestnut trees. Yeah. Yeah. From like well, not like photo albums that like your grandparents took, but stuff like old stuff. Yeah. Posing by chestnut trees in the valley. Yeah. It was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
They were huge too.
Apparently, there's two small American chestnut preserves left. I think one's in Wisconsin and one's in Michigan. There's like a couple of like super nerd farmers who might be a little bit more adjacent to a particular type of rural librarian than discussed in shows past. But anyway, these guys have done the hard yards of preserving the American chestnut, and I guess like they're super hardcore at this one in Michigan. Like you can come visit it, but like you have to take your shoes off and have a shower or something, and they keep out all these pests, and they have actual living American chestnut trees still.
That's base. It sounds like when you go see the moon rocks. I don't know if you guys ever seen that. You got to go through like 3 levels of showers and stuff to get near the moon rocks.
No, I didn't know you could go visit the moon rocks.
Yeah.
Florida Museum or something?
I don't know. Someone bring. Okay. Well, you wouldn't roast. I know like pecans. Macadamia nuts, almonds. You would. Well, I guess you roast an almond, but it's talking about in the song you roasting these chestnuts. I don't know. Have you guys ever had one? Apparently, you can get the Chinese ones or whatever, but yeah, I've never had one.
Yeah, I mean, there are still chestnut trees in there are chestnut trees in Europe too, but it just killed off all of our trees. Our trees just got murked by it, and that's very important. I know if you lived especially if you lived around here, you would feed them to your pigs and stuff like that. You would save a lot of money. Feeding these high protein chestnuts that just literally fell out of the sky to your hogs and not have to pay an outrageous amount of money for feed.
The other thing, I've talked about this before, but when you're growing up living probably anywhere besides New York City sticks out a lot on TV and stuff. You're always like, you have the shit about the Murphy beds and all that stuff. But the other thing, like half of the time you see New York City on TV, it's Christmas. And you're watching this, they have that big ass tree down there. It's always snowing and people are out shopping and stuff. We just don't have that shit.
What do you mean you don't have that? In Florida, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we do, but we do get snow and have cold weather. I don't know. Is that really a big thing? Like that you guys we got Santa Claus, but we don't have snow like that?
Well, it's not something you discuss or whatever, but you just think about it. It's something that comes up. People think about it. I wanted to ask you something though.
Sure.
Benjamin Braddock had a great thread where he talked about that in the South there's a
I gotta go, boys. Sorry about that.
All right, Gord, take it
Merry
easy.
Christmas, Gord.
Merry
Christmas, everybody. I gotta go help the wife wrap my kids' presents and do the Santa Claus thing. So, yeah, y'all have a good night. Everybody have a great weekend. Take care.
Merry Christmas. So, Benjamin Braddock had this great thread where he talked about that there's this. I don't know if he said Scots Irish, but he said a Southern tradition about eating oyster stew on Christmas.
Yep.
And I had never thought about that, but I know on Christmas we go to my grandma's house and we have oyster stew. And that's happened my entire life. But I thought that was just we are like particular Gulf Coast rednecks that are, when I was growing up, all we eat was seafood and stuff like that. So I thought that was just us, but he
No.
said that's a thing.
No, it is, and although sometimes like a lot, my grandparents, like, you know, this is always one of the things where like it's tradition, so it just has faded out every year. Like I don't do that. I don't particularly like oysters that much anyway. But my mom,
you're a communist, man.
you know, I live in the mountains in
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned it, like when you were saying, when we were talking about snow, I was like, yeah, seafood's like that for us. Like you go to the beach and you get decent seafood, and then the rest of your life you're getting like Red Lobster garbage. But anyway, like yeah, they would get the oysters, although a lot of times she would fry them instead of eating them in the soup. She would just fry them up. But it's funny, yeah, this is the thing, and it always has been, even out here, people would do this thing where they would go together, like a joint stock operation, and all these people would go and order in bulk oysters, and they would, like, I know they would meet at the fire station and, like, I guess split it up or whatever, and you would throw them in the freezer or whatever, so you could have your oysters for Christmas and New Year's and whatever. It was such a big deal. I remember I didn't know that was a thing everywhere either.
I never thought about it or questioned it. I just never noticed that the only day of the year that we eat oyster stew is on Christmas.
And Donkey Bite says, yeah, your state has an ocean coast. Yeah, I mean, we do. But, like, you have to understand, the parts of Virginia that are coastal are, like, which would be nice. Culturally, they're not the same as my part of the state. Like they're more like, you know, they're closer to the Gulf Coast culturally than.
How dare you?
Than Appalachia. Like
he's saying they're full of.
Yeah, so like if you go through like Kentucky, Tennessee, whatever, and you go through the mountains, you're like these are my West Virginia. These are my people. Like I'm really close to them culturally, but like Southeast Virginia, whatever. No, not really. They got a different way of talking, different way of doing things. It's just not the same. And we would not spend a lot of time there because to go to the beach, other than and I don't even like the Virginia beaches. I prefer to go to North Carolina, down to the Outer Banks if I'm going to go to the beach.
Well, where is it in? Is there a name for Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina? They call it Mid-Atlantic or something.
No, they're not. Well, I mean that Virginia's part of the Mid-Atlantic is not really not a concrete term. The term I've always heard for it was Old South.
Okay, that makes sense. And you would like that shit anyway. Yeah. Speaking of which, God, there was a great tweet I retweeted before we went on the air, and it made me think of something. This guy posted, which by the way, you know, it was so sad what happened to AP Hill and his remains, but
yeah,
both of us been following his boy. I guess that's his great grandson or whatever on Twitter, and
I think it's more than two greats. Yeah, but
but I don't know. It's interesting. I thought he had such a great attitude about it. He says. Yeah. He said Richmond was a hellhole.
The same thing I said last week, right?
He said if AP Hill had known, he wouldn't want his remains to be in that shithole anymore. Anyway,
he's bringing them back to Culpeper. My neck is really close to where I live. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that he had a picture of him at the Hank Jr. concert.
Yeah.
I'm sure Hank would not be it because he's a real artist and stuff. He's got contracts and stuff. I'm sure he couldn't say nothing. I wouldn't be surprised if Hank reached out to him. You know?
Yeah. I'm gonna sound. Hank Williams Jr. is still alive, right? It was Charlie Daniels that passed away.
Yeah.
I don't think that Hank Williams Jr. would have any trouble doing that. He's been going buck wild with it in the last few years, hasn't he?
Yeah. Today I went over to my parents' house to eat lunch, and my dad was wearing a Hank Williams Jr. shirt.
Hell yeah.
That I couldn't repeat what it said, but it said we should, do something about the political leadership of the United States. and it would be illegal. I couldn't say it on the air.
Yeah,
It would
my dad
pop-
got banned from Twitter for saying that about someone specifically in the government, and I wonder if I could get him unbanned by Elon.
Yeah, I mean, it would be potentially even illegal for me to say it, not just by Twitter or whatever. But
Right, yeah.
yeah, Hank Jr. is based. I don't know if people know, but Hank Jr. really is the Prince of the South. I mean, it's so many ways. Because one thing about being royalty is not really about meritocracy, right? Royalty is about you have a lot of expectations placed on you, and you have to live up to it. And that's exactly what Hank Jr. Everybody knew Bo Cephas before he had teeth, right? So his daddy basically invented country music. His daddy, he didn't really invent country music, but like basically, and he pretty much, I mean, and he absolutely invented rock and roll, which is hilarious. Thoughts on Hank 3? I haven't really listened to it. I know it has a certain, some people are into it. I know that Hank 3 didn't know that Hank Jr. was his daddy for a long time. Hank Jr. was a touring musician, that kind of thing.
He was a rambling man.
Yeah, he was out there rambling. Someone says he got the Monday Night Football gig back. Hell yeah, that's good to see, because I mean, like, all this good old boy shit we talk about, and we talk about the Confederacy a little bit and this kind of stuff. That little world, like Hank Jr. is like the main guy of that, and stuff like the Monday Night Football gig, that was kind of like, people from our world in the bigger world, because Monday Night Football is the biggest show on earth, and it's not that important to us. I could give a damn if he's on Monday Night Football, be honest, and probably rather him not. You know what I'm saying? But still, he's the king. Since I saw Hank 3 in like 2003, the show was good. First set acoustic country, second set hardcore punk with a twang. Yeah. And see, a lot of people say, a lot of people be like, well, why is Hank the third? He's a little too wild and stuff. Well, I mean, Hank Jr. was kind of like that, but sorry, getting back to the royalty thing. So everybody knew Hank Jr. when he was a baby, because his daddy was the king of the South. Like, you can't get bigger than him. I guess maybe Elvis or something. But, he was trained by his dad while he was alive to be a country musician. Every country star in Nashville would give him lessons. Like, I don't know if people know. So Hank Jr. can play any instrument, anything. I mean, he can play the fiddle, he can play the piano, he can play the guitar. Like, he's like a Prince, like virtuoso guy. Like, and you can't do that if you're a normal person, like learning music. You have to kind of be like raised like a Tiger Woods situation.
Paul McCartney did that with his first solo album. He played every instrument on the album.
Yeah. And, he's like that. And so there was so much to live up to. And, everybody wanted him to be just like his daddy. And he did that for a while. And the thing is, he could never be his dad. He just couldn't. He just can't be Hank Williams. And he forged his own path. And what he did was, I mean, his music is fantastic. I love it. You hear a lot of people say, I like Hank Williams Sr., but Jr., I don't know about that. No, Hank Jr. is a brilliant musician. He ain't just some old redneck. He's not Hank Sr., but that's the thing. Nobody can be Hank Sr. That's why he went his own way, because you can't really do that. But I saw this great tweet. I replied. Someone said, well, first off, I'm replying. Someone says, I still don't see how people can get mad at others' pronouns. Just call them what they want to be called. It's not hard to just show respect and be kind even if you don't agree. And I said, yeah, it's not hard to call it the war between the states. Just show respect even if you don't agree.
The war of northern aggression, excuse me.
I don't like the war of northern aggression. A lot of people replied to me and said, use the war of northern aggression.
Yeah, the war between the states is actually descriptive. Like, that is, you're not, from a neutral point of view standpoint, like, war between the states makes the cut. Like war of northern aggression, you can't really do that,
No.
you know.
Well, there's a stuff. So first off, if you're trying to do this thing, you're trying to put a little spin on it, which I'm
Right.
trying to do too. And now the thing, if you say the war of northern aggression, that's a little bit pussy to me, and you're kind of giving them too much. You're kind of playing victim a little bit, and you know, and that's the only. If you say the war between the states, there's some spin on that, and it's good spin. It's funny spin. It's these United States spin. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's not funny. Yeah, that's the whole point of the exercise is that the states are states. They, this is a war between like autonomous, semi-autonomous sovereign states, which is obviously like now that's not the way because the North won. That doesn't exist anymore. Yes.
So when you say these United States, or you say the war between the states, you are being like a revanchist neo-Confederate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it means you didn't learn your lesson.
It's fascinating because there's no. I mean, well, I guess this our only real civil war, but it's funny, like a lot of the battle names in the Civil War. Like what you call the battle kind of tells exactly which where you're from and which side you were on, right? Like Bull Run versus Manassas, because there was the Confederates had a different naming scheme than like Antietam versus Sharpsburg, right? All these places that had different battle names. It's funny how these things played out, especially in the 19th century. They were like. It's a meme now that, I'm going to call the Civil War something other than the Civil War. But, like, no. If you were from the South, you didn't say the Civil War. It was the War of Secession or the war between the states or, the war of Yankee aggression, if you were really getting really spicy about it.
Yeah. Shout out Brad Barnes says it's cold AF in Georgia. I was in Georgia just the other day. I love saying Georgia.
When you told that story about the nice truck, my grandpa had I don't know, it was a 70s like F100. Mm-hmm. You can picture it in your mind. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And that thing, he drove it during the 70s before I was born. He drove it when I was a kid. He gave it to my father, who then subsequently drove it well into the 90s. So I don't know how many miles were on that thing, but it was kind of like, what Gore was talking about. That thing lasted forever, especially for a vehicle of that era. Your little import Honda might go 300,000 miles, but like this is a damn pickup truck, and that thing just lasted forever.
You don't even know, man. Anybody out there, I mean, I think it's very interesting. Go look up the interior on an 85 or 1986 Ford F-150. It's amazing. I mean, there's this idea in politics that like the way to win is to sort of see yourself as sort of deserving things and stuff like this. Like when the Northerners, they were like, we can't let these redneck bastards do this. That's an affront to us. That thing. It's like, the American foreign policy. That's like, you goat herding son of a bitches are gonna run your country this way. You can't do that. We're going to go in there and fuck this up. This is kind of like ultra confidence. Go look up and this is an F-150. Okay. So like the F-150 is probably the most sold vehicle in the United States. Like no matter what year it is, most of them, I mean, like, I don't know about most of them, but like 50 of them are going to like some random business and they're going to be driving all over town, delivering stuff. This is just a tool. This isn't a car for a prince, or this isn't even a car that like come on in, check out, like a car salesman is going to be like, check out the interior on this. No, it's an F-150. You get the half ton, the quarter, like the 3/4 ton. Like, it's not that thing. Go look at that goddamn interior. Look at the door panel. It's got the way that the wood.
Yeah, it looks like the interior of a ship's cabin. Yeah, they're beautiful.
Whoever built this car was like, well, yeah. I was looking the other day. They're showing off El Chapo's gun collection. I always love this. You'll know this is something that's common. If you're like a patronage guy or a tin pot dictator, you have to have like golden weapons, and they have to be lavish. Because I'm Saddam Hussein. I'm the big man. I gotta have a big gun, and it's got to be beautiful. They which, by the way, they have to have a car like that too. They got to have the Mercedes Benz, and it's got to be beautiful and all this. It's got to be engraved. The little that they always have like there's this British shotgun maker that makes shotguns for the world's great leaders and dictators and stuff, and they'll spend like years engraving it and stuff like that. It's got to be for the big man. Like the average American in 1985 thought themselves was this. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah. We you talking about America after the war, but before NAFTA, we were. You were that. Yeah. Every man was a king.
Every man a king. That's the every man a king thing. But like, it had more punch than it would now. People now is like, the politicians in DC, just please stop raping me and I'll vote for you. You promise to do that. Like, I'll help you out. These people thought themselves were kings. They're like, no, I need you need to go ahead and get some more wood in that door panel, but anyways, so the next reply to this great thread, someone says, G-Man says there's an old used bookstore in Lewisburg, West Virginia with a handwritten sign indicating that a particular section contained books about the War of Secession. I bought Robertson's biography of Stonewall Jackson there. The old man at the counter told me this is a very good book. Have you read that book?
No, I haven't read the biography of Stonewall Jackson. I've read Lee's biography, but not Stonewall's, which is unfortunate because Stonewall is like, we love Stonewall here.
I've got this great book. I should show you sometime. One of the great Confederate writers, he compiled this book, and it's a book that lists every single book that was written by someone that was in the South, like during the Confederacy. And he'll give you a short description. It'll be like, this was a French guy. He was here for whatever reason. And part of his book, he's in the Confederate South. It's very interesting, right?
Yeah. This is kind of a meta point, but this is, sometimes people on the podcast will like ask us about like, suggestions for reading books, which is, I always think it's really funny asking me, like, to name you a book that you should read. But I do have a general piece of advice about this. This is what this listener did, going into an old bookstore. Good move. Also, thrift stores are a good move, but very specifically, what you want if you're reading a nonfiction book is you want something written definitely before 2010. Preferably before 2000, and if you really want a good book, you want something like before 1960. If you can find a book written in the 50s about the historical subject, perfect.
Yeah,
buy it.
Shout out Jack Harrington is going through a tough time. Love you guys. Thank you for making me hair. I said thank you for making me hairy. I don't need any. I'm as hairy as it go. But thank you for making me merry. Shout out to you, Jack. We're glad to do it. Yeah, one of my favorite books I read this year was a book about the age of sail, and it was written in the 50s. And it felt like this author, like, I mean, I didn't perceive that there was anything holding them back from how they were talking. You know, we got to do some episodes on the Age of Sail. It's the most base shit of all time.
Absolutely, I picked up not that long ago from a thrift store. Funny enough, a series of books about great naval battles. It include 19th century and early 20th century.
I'm sorry. I mean, well, yeah, it's Age of Sail. This is the age of exploration, but
yeah. I mean, that's different because, like, yeah, no, that's different than what I'm like than this. Yeah, because the Age of Sail was like, you get on a boat and you're going. You don't know where you're going. You don't really have you don't have the tools to figure out. You can like figure out to a general extent where you are using the stars, but you don't have the means to like. Is it your figure out your longitude, right? You can't even do that. You're just sailing in a straight line and like, I hope there's land over there. Otherwise we're all going to die. That's a totally different experience than sailing in like the 19th century, which was dangerous by itself. Like, it's just, we're talking about it. It's so funny that, we're in the year 2022 and like and that's just the last 2,000 years, like human history, 10,000 years, 12,000 years. In that time, like there's been like 500 or 600 where human beings could sail on the ocean without dying. You just like before then you really didn't sail across the ocean unless you were like a Polynesian person and in your crazy ass canoe. You were sailing along the coastlines because if you got to sea, you're gonna fucking die.
Yeah. Someone says there's something about a honey next to you on a bench seat going down the road. Do they make like, I haven't been in a late model truck with a bench seat. But by the way, the truck I told Gord about, it had a bench seat. Now, do they make late model trucks with bench seats?
I haven't seen one. I don't think they do that anymore. No, I can't imagine.
Nothing like a bench seat. But yeah. So getting back to it. So back to this story. So the old bookstore, the guy told him it's a very good book. I had the most soy version of this shit of all human history. Okay. I don't remember how old I am. I'm probably somewhere between 16 to 24 at this point. I don't really know much at all about anything. I'm in a used bookstore looking through this shit, and I see a copy of Hegel's Phenomenology of Spirit. And it's a really old version. I mean, it's an old ass book, like the physical book. And it was like, it looked really cool, but just because it was so old. And I remember thinking about it. I was like, I've heard people that read this book are really smart.
Yeah.
If you read this book, smart people sit around reading this book. So I was like, I'd like to be a smart guy. So I picked up the book and I took it to check out, and I had some other bullshit. I don't remember what member it is. I'll never forget this. And remember in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know what the fuck this is, but I've heard that people that are real smart like this book. I throw that bitch on the counter. There's a woman probably in her 60s that's working the counter. She picks up the book and she goes, Hegel. She goes, I bet you're real smart. And I remember thinking about that, and I was like, maybe that's the point of Hegel's books. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You just throw it on the counter and people say, oh, you're smart. And you know what I'm saying?
Never read it. Yeah, never actually read it. Yeah, that is that's a big thing.
Everybody's happy. No problem. Everybody goes home happy. What a smart boy. I feel smart. Nobody has to, it's so happy.
I had that happen to me at the library, but it was a Chesterton book. And I felt like the librarian lady was like, oh, Chesterton. And I felt like a king.
Well, but you would actually read that shit. I mean, like, is Chesterton like he could have wrote, I mean, isn't Father Ted basically from him?
I've never seen Father Ted. I don't know what that is. Like, I see people referencing it. I have no idea what the hell that is.
I was told to watch it. I watched some episodes. It was funny.
It was BBC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Well, I mean, like Chesterton could have wrote like
Let me just say, I'm not saying it's bad because I said some shit about Mr. Bean one time and people sent me death threats. Father Ted might be genius. Father Brown, whatever it is, I like it. Please don't send me angry letters.
Yeah, but I mean, he was such a good writer, and he was like he could write, quippy, short. He didn't have to, to string it out or pretend to be smart. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Hegel is not easy to digest.
No, the first thing you figure out, you think when you're sitting there reading this Hegel book is you're like, okay, this didn't start out in English, and like, there's a good chance, like, you don't read shit like this translated. I mean, whoever is translating shit like this is making way too many judgment calls.
Yeah.
But either way, like, I tried to read it. It's just, it's like, and the funny thing about it, of course, is that it's all so vague that like it was so vague, but it was punchy and stuff like that, that as soon as it came out, there were like, even like before this book came out, there were like basically like the Republicans and the Democrats, right? After Hegel's book comes out, it changes everything. And now there are the Republican Hegelians and the Democrat Hegelians.
European politics do be that way. Yeah.
Yeah, so nothing really changes because the book doesn't ever say it's, although, we tried to say something clearly in the Second Amendment.
My favorite one of that is a favorite version of that is the Dreyfus thing, where it's just like for 10 years after this Dreyfus affair, everybody in France is like, where do you stand on that? That's now your political alignment. If you think he was guilty, then I know. Well, this is not really what it was about. It was a stand-in for whatever. But yeah, but it was funny because they would just our only analog to that would be like the Masons and the anti-Masons, right? Where your political you would have a political party that was literally, we're the anti-Mason political party.
Yeah, I hope we have some advice for people about this shit, because I know this kind of thing is alluring if you're young.
What's that?
The idea, when you're young, you will think there's this thing called philosophy, and if I get into it, I can reach I can be one of the smartest people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, there's something people say about, and by the way, here's another thing that I can give you some advice on. There's something that you'll see people throw around when you're young, is they'll say, if you do psychedelic drugs, then like you could be enlightened. You could learn truths about the universe that aren't available to you when you're sober, right? And it sounds plausible. Honestly, reading getting into philosophy, I of course like it enough. I love who's the German guy we like?
I'm sorry.
He's in China.
Hans-Georg Muller.
Hans-Georg Muller's a genius. He's like all the big German philosophers are like from the same place in Germany. That guy's from there too, so that helps. You know what I mean? It's like, so I trust him because he reads it in German. He's like from the same place, and he went to the same school that Hegel went to and all that shit. But the idea is you're gonna get this like enlightened thing. What happens in both cases, if you go do psychedelic drugs, while you're on psychedelic drugs, you feel like you have reached understanding. You're like, I get it. I understand everything now. I'm Neo in the Matrix. It all makes sense to me. And when you're reading, and when you're really, and not just reading, but when you're really deep into some philosophy shit, and you're sort of thinking about it all the time, and you're walking around and you see something that sort of seems like something you read in your philosophy books and stuff, you'll be like, I get it. I'm Neo. It's all just ones and zeros, and I can just do anything. What you'll find is that like a week later, you will feel like, God, I knew it, but I don't remember it anymore. What happened? It's just like when you're the psychedelic thing, you're like, God damn, like 2 hours ago when I was tripping, I knew the secrets of the universe, but I just kind of forgot. What were they?
It's like when when you've been drinking and you suddenly remember the perfect thing to say to your ex-girlfriend through text message.
Uh-huh.
Right? Yeah, it's not quite the breakthrough that you think it is.
Yeah. It's so dangerous. I mean, the other thing that you'll find is that, especially so a book like Hegel, it gets like, it's so vague that what you'll find is that somebody who's like very charismatic can sort of take this stuff, and they can make it mean anything they want, and they can be very compelling.
Yeah.
This is sort of the thing like about like arguing and stuff. Like a lot of leftist sort of complaints about debate and stuff. I mean, they don't ever say it like this, but a lot of it is that just that like you can put up a real fight in a debate just by being like charismatic and being kind of good at debate. You can sort of push kind of anything, but
hitching your way through things. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially stuff like philosophy and stuff. You ever watch the guy from Navixum, the sex cult?
No. Should I?
No, I mean I sent it to Hans Georg Muller. I was like, because like all the stuff that Hans Georg Muller talks about, like all the bullshit about finding your what is that? All that you're into. What comes before felicity? Authenticity.
Authenticity, yeah.
Yeah. This guy so remember, this is a guy who runs a sex cult. So, basically, like twice a week, you come to his house. You have to fucking suck him and give him all your money. That's how being in his philosophy works. But you sit down there and you listen to all this bullshit about where he talks about becoming your authentic self, and then you have to blow him. And that guy is like 5'3". Did you see like, I can't remember who, but someone like Kim Bassinger or something like that is like going down with the ship with this guy.
Kim, really?
It's not that, but some huge actress is like
Allison Mack, I know, was one of them, right?
Yeah, they're like, we must defend this guy. It's just I mean, if you listen to him speak, he's got like, the thing is, you can do a lot with charisma. You can go pretty far with some bullshit, and I don't know. That's highly dangerous. That's highly dangerous. You
can go in the Hegel direction, or you can go the sex cult direction. I'd probably go with the latter.
Yeah, so that's another thing. If you get into philosophy, make sure the philosopher's ugly. That helps. I think that should be like a PUA thing. Like you're not taking PUA advice from a guy that's like 6'6", and benches 450. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just be yourself, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So it says Blackfield Swift. He says there was this one debate where Hitchens showed up drunk and sweaty. He lost that one. Yeah. One fundamentalist Christian guy did very well against him. I know that was sort of towards the end of his debating, and what was that guy? I can't remember that guy's name. That guy was able to mess with him. And, yeah.
Was it Gish?
I don't remember.
That Gish guy, they would argue intelligent design, and they would really get mad at him because he would use
the Gish Gallop.
Yeah, yes, but it was in other they have what's the word for that Reddit rule system where of debate where you there's like these rules that you can't do these things. Like straw man was one of them. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's using straw man and slippery slope fallacy, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so yeah.
AKA he's good at debating, so we're mad at him for that.
William Lane Craig. Yeah, William Lane Craig did well against him, which was like, that was funny because like when Hitchens went around. And by the way, Hitchens is top tier A+ at rhetoric. Rhetoric is an important skill, and you have to respect that. Like, because I mean, do you think Hitchens was walking around winning debates because like he had just found, like he was just sort of reading off the correct science and stuff? No, I mean, you know, people had tried that. By the way, people who weren't charismatic would just sort of like read, you know, scientific stuff, and they get bullied out of the building because that's not how rhetoric works. They used to teach rhetoric as rhetoric. Caesar was taught rhetoric. If you're Roman. You know, if you're a Roman aristocrat, you were taught rhetoric.
If you were a Roman, you were expected to go in a rostrum and start and you know, speak to people, and that was part of being a man or public life. You know, public, like you know, people say like, I don't like public speaking. Well, in Rome, then you basically weren't a man. You were, you know what I'm saying? Yeah,
rhetoric is dope, but we live in a pussy culture where it's or things are so this is kind of like the legal, you know, everything in our modern society is designed to like avoid like legal repercussions. So you never are sort of straight up about things. Rhetoric is like, you know, you have to be able to just basically like change people's minds with your words and your moves and stuff. Like, this is the South Park example that blew up so big was, you know, the Wookiee argument or whatever.
Yeah,
remember that?
Defense, yeah.
That's rhetoric, you know, and the of course this is why Cicero, yeah, this is funny, and people who are modern people that are stupid that they're like, well, Cicero was the best lawyer in Rome, so you know he must have been like me, and they're like, no, Cicero's law cases were like, hey, I heard this guy fucked his sister, he's guilty. That's the case. But yeah, the rhetoric reason... thing would be like they push you out there and be like, get all these people mad into a frenzy.
But you know, like there's the easy answer to stuff like, you know, you said rhetoric is dope. We live in a pussy society. Like you live in an administrative state, aka there are experts. Like, you know, you can just consult an expert, right? You don't need to have this conversation because there are experts who said that you know, whatever answer is safe and effective, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna outsource your, I'm gonna say thinking, because I'm not here to advocate people think, but like, you know, you outsource your opinions to an expert. Well, you know, you can do things that way, but you run into the problem that we've had in the last few years, which is what happens when the experts are idiots.
Yeah.
That's what rhetoric. That's populist. You know, your Twitter profile for a long time said populist demagogue, right? That's what a populist demagogue is. It's somebody who uses rhetoric to sway people, and that has negative connotations in modern America. But there's nothing inherently negative about that. That's how you sway people.
Yeah. And you know the thing about that, it's life is riddled with paradoxes, and you know, I argue with a lot of people about that kind of stuff, and they'll say, you know, if you're doing this kind of thing, if you're a demagogue, then that has like a communist reputation, right? You're not like an elite man if you're looking to whip up the common people into a frenzy. Well,
that's crazy.
Isn't that the fucking opposite? You know, you're just a one-man gang, and you go whip up the crowd into a fucking frenzy.
Well, anybody says that's crazy because, like, for one thing, they don't say that anymore. There's such thing as a left-wing demagogue. That never is never said.
Yeah, I'm talking about right-wing people.
Yeah, I'm saying like nobody ever attaches that label to a left-wing person. You never hear he's a left-wing demagogue. I mean, maybe they said about Bernard Sanders in like 2016 for the brief period of time that they were they were worried about him. But like, yeah, it's just like it's always right. You're always a right wing demagogue. The demagoguery is inherently inherently right wing.
Absolutely.
The label, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's you know, the thing about saying like I'm a demagogue or rhetoric is a legitimate political force. It's not Machiavellian because it's just reality. Like if you found me like places where it's not true, I would go with it. But what you have is you just have people denial. You just have denial. And so what happens is you have like arguments. You ever see people beefing on Twitter and shit like that? They'll throw arguments and shit back at each other, but like if you've been around the block a little bit and you know a little bit, all this shit, like all this arguments and shit like that, that's not really how this works. It's basically just charisma contests or rhetoric contests.
To bring it back around to the original subject, when we were talking about, we were talking about podcasting, and like podcasting, it's the same way. You remember when we made, 5 or 6 years before we made this podcast, we tried to make one where we talked about historical stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that like we were bad at that. We were pretty good at it, but it's like even we didn't bother to release it because who cares?
Yeah.
No, you're we're going to talk about the 30 Years War. So what? That's not the presentation you have to offer, and like the thing like where you can't win a debate by reciting statistics and facts. Well, you can't do that with a podcast either.
Yeah, I get a lot of grief about this. I mean, I think a lot of people have good morals and stuff, and in the back channels of sort of if in the dark back alleys and group chats of online politics, I have a reputation as kind of being like the style of what we do is kind of shystery and stuff because it's
what?
Because it's like we will put entertainment over for theory and shit like that.
The job is being entertaining to people. That's the whole job.
I know, but I think the difference here is that people feel like,
you see that son of a bitch, he's a carpenter. He just makes tables all day. What a fraud.
I know. And see, I think the thing is, in my mind, I'm Adam Carolla. I'm trying to get people home on their 5 p.m. drive, and they're doing BBC in our time. You know what I mean?
Maybe. Well, yeah. I mean,
a lot of podcasts are run by like professors and stuff.
Right. Okay.
Professor doesn't imagine himself that he's welcome to the live drive home at 5.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say this, and because I understand this because I've seen it happen, and I'll complain to you about it. Whereas I won't use any specifics, but there will be somebody who does the same thing that we do, and they do it in a way that I feel is not as good as the way we do it. And they they're going on TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're talking to people on TV or Joe Rogan or whatever, and I'll be like, that son of a bitch. It's just because of who they know, whatever. But like the whether that's true or not, like the complaining about that's stupid because like that's like saying, well, that son of a bitch, he's better at this than I am. That's what you're really saying.
Well,
one way or the other.
That's an aspect of this because like the thing is being the perception of this is that like this is like they just want to blow up or something like that. But that's not really true. I mean, you will find we are certainly not the most popular people out there. And in fact, Joe Rogan talks to people for 4 hours at a time. People are talking about that guy. What's his name? He's a big lolcow today and yesterday, Lex Friedman.
I don't know who that is. I keep people talking about it, but I don't know who he is.
He's the newest Joe Rogan guy.
Nah.
Lex Friedman is doing what they're doing. Lex Friedman is not trying to be welcome. He's not trying to be radio guy. He's trying to deep conversations for 3 hours and stuff. So it's not like what we're doing is more popular. It's not. Maybe it's cut even or whatever. I mean, because honestly, what we're doing is really what's a radio thing. It's not really podcasting.
I mean, what we're doing literally right now, yes. But like, we also, I was going to, before we started, I was going to say, like, just thinking about the stuff we've done this year. And at the start of the year, we talked to Michael Anton, which I think that might be my favorite podcast that we've ever done.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And yeah, because whenever we talk about like smart people that we've talked to, he's always and we've talked to a lot of really smart people, insanely high IQ people who've worked in the government and stuff. But you messaged me kind of the same thing today. It's like he seemed like he was on another level when you talked to him, right? It's like, so we do that sometimes. But,
yeah.
Sometimes we do this. Sometimes we're.
Yeah, we're 50,
we're talking about F-150s.
Yeah, we're 50-50 between sports radio, whatever, and doing podcasting. Like podcasting, because a professor is not a radio whore. A professor is used to talking for 2 hours, and there's, by the way, you don't opt out of a professor's discussion. It doesn't mean they're not entertaining. By the way, I love. You will find that professors are really fucking good at talking. I mean, we have a friend that he didn't make it to professor, but he spent a lot of time in whatever that kind of training. And just like most of these people, you can tell that like the way they train them, like he thinks about what he's going to say before he talks. Yeah. That's a rare skill.
Well, I was impressed with him in the sense that it's not like that he wanted to become a professor and he couldn't do it. He got to the point he was like, I don't think I actually want to do this anymore. Kind of finding out the way that industry works compared to how you imagined it.
Yeah. So Jack Harrington says, let's get to the text line real quick, brought to you by Astro Drive.
That's the only regret that we don't have any sponsors. Whenever no Blue Chews ad sponsors.
I thought about just faking it, and we should just do ads for things that we like, and just be like, just say this hour's brought to you by Buck Knives, or
Coors Light.
Yeah. Miller Genuine Draft, the best a man can get.
If the numbers start going down, we're down to Milwaukee's best.
Yeah. Trojan Man.
Yeah, PSA, Palmetto State Armory. Yeah, I got my AR, the AR-15 that I lost in a boating accident from Palmetto State.
Trojan Man. Yeah. So this is leftism as always. We love to be extremely rhetorical, often insecurely, because it's the only source of IQ. Just look at Chapo. The whole gig's finding new rhetorical ways to denigrate and shame. Yeah, they're good at it, by the way. And
very good at it.
And it's now, I don't, it's so hard to say, because I think their time is probably not like the time they were building up that sort of that feeling out there in people is probably gone. I was looking at I was looking at one of their heroes or whatever, because I know that one of their top guys got humiliated last week, and someone showed me some of their other. They have like their big dog accounts that sort of fight for them and sort of spread their ideology. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
guys between like 20 and 40,000 followers, and their name will be like, Lennon farts or something like that.
Yeah.
Those kind of guys. And it was like, it feels like, their time of like building that stuff is gone, but that feeling they put in people, at least in people above, like older Zoomers and above, are affected by that stuff. So, I mean, if people that are in our sphere that we like and are good people that are doing what we're doing, if they're kind of educating stuff,
it's millennials, not older Zoomers. Especially the Chapo origins are the Something Awful forums, right?
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that the other day. I won't get on about too much of a digression, but there was actually one thing I liked about the Something Awful forums that I think I wished had survived. and that was, you remember how you could pay $5 to change somebody else's PFP?
Mm-hmm.
You could change their avatar, and they would have to. Wouldn't it be great if you could just change Matt Iglesias? You could break out the credit card and just pay Elon Musk $5 to change his avatar. I think that would have been worthwhile.
Yeah. People talk about Chapo, Twitter. Yeah, that's weird. Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But the thing that they are able to do is that, and this is like a real thing. And it doesn't matter if you're in Chapo Twitter or you believe in democratic socialism. Basically, if you're educated, there's this thing in the back of your mind that's like, I don't want to look like an F slur. I got to watch what I say. Like,
Yeah. I mean, this is, I won't ascribe a particular political leaning to it, but this is a big thing, which is that social ostracization might be too strong for it, but like, am I allowed to say this, or are people going to make fun of me if I say this? That doesn't work on everybody. Like that really, I mean, and I'll catch myself doing this sometimes. I'm like, why am I saying that? You know, I'm an adult man. I'll just say whatever I want. Your philosophy should be say whatever you want, like unless it's going to get you like literally banned from Twitter. That's my censorship regimen, right? Is that if it's going to get me banned from Twitter or Patreon, I won't say it. But like otherwise, if you're worried about what people are going to think about you, that's pretty fucking gay.
Yeah, but I mean,
it works. That's how human interaction works.
Yeah.
The thing is, okay, like group, someone said group shaming, yeah, like or like shunning, like the Amish do. The problem is like that's supposed to be something that happens in your community. Like people online, they're not your family, right? Like if they get really mad at you and say I don't like you anymore, that's just people online. You should, but for various reasons, people do think that way about it, and getting like shunned from that group, getting shunned from your online friend group, is a big damn deal.
I've got an example for this. So, like a common good old boy thing is automobile racing. Yeah. So automobiles are a bigger part of your life the more rural you live. And, it's just sort of a masculine thing and a thing that going like the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
If you're making a show about rednecks, they're like, well, these are guys that they love cars and they love working on cars. Like, if I understand at the end of the Dukes of Hazzard series, they become NASCAR racers or something, right?
I don't remember.
Well,
yeah. The two main guys they got in the stock car circuit, and that's why they had to leave the show.
I have family that are in NASCAR.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'll tell you about that off the air, but they're not big time, but they play a part in the whole NASCAR world. And
hell yeah.
That's just so when I grew up, I drove a 1972 Plymouth Satellite. I've always had old cars, always been working on old cars. It's just a good old boy thing. Now, like in the old days in the South, NASCAR is stock car racing. So stock car means a car you buy from the dealership. So it's 1969 or 1970 or 1971, the cars you saw on Richard Petty driving was a car you could buy from the dealership. They used to say, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. And it was the same car. And so the cars that you would hop up are just that kind of cars. And so, as time went on, that's not really how, and so NASCAR got rid of that stuff. And so now if you want to race cars, basically the how you get started as a young guy is either in go-karts and karting. It's a go-kart. It's not like you drive at the fair, but it's not that far different. It's kind of like, you a go-kart you ride at the carnival. or basically Miatas. I don't know if people know, like a Miata is a very small car. It's rear wheel drive. It's like the closest thing to a golf cart. I mean, it's this little bitty ass car and it's rear wheel drive and it was made to handle and stuff like that. It doesn't have a roof. It's just a little go-kart. And so the way that they keep racing cheap for young guys, they're trying to get into it, is they'll say, they'll have a racing series, and to keep it from people like, trying to buy better cars or fix up their car, they'll just say the only thing you can race is a Miata that's like stock. Maybe you got to put some safety equipment and stuff, but you can only race a Miata. That's basically how people get going, young guy, in racing, even in the South. And this took a while to get going, I think, because there was a perception that driving a Miata is gay.
Yeah.
There was a long time where when Miatas first came out in like the early 90s and stuff, they're such a small car. I don't know why, but there was just this in the South, a Miata was something that people said that gay hairdressers drew.
Well, I mean, Miata's on a different level, but when I bought my car, it's a Japanese, it's a Honda, right? It's a Japanese car. I sat down, I went to visit my grandma, and I sat down at the table with her, and I was like, "Hey, what do you think about my new car, Grandma?" I was like, "Yeah, I thought you'd be pretty happy that I got a nice new car." She was like, "If your grandfather could see you driving a Japanese car, he'd roll over in his grave." Because he was a Ford man, auto mechanic his whole life. Like, this is, I can't believe you'd shame the family by buying an import.
Someone says, I definitely made fun of a friend a lot for buying a Miata. Yeah. By the way, that perception's gone. So if you look in the class,
Furious.
If you look in the classifieds in the deep South, you will see lots of Miatas basically that have roll cages in them and stuff. That's what they're racing and stuff. That thing in the back of a good old boy's mind that's like, damn, someone says Miatas were called gay hairdresser cars in the UK and Australia. Yeah. That thing in the back of good old boy is like, damn, I don't look like an F slur. I don't be driving Miata. They have that for like political commentary. And what you'll see happens is on these shows, the main point of those shows is like they'll take people that offer unsophisticated right-wing stuff or that are really weird. Like you'll find anybody that's in like what you'll call the dissident right has a lot of problems with someone like Rod Dreher.
Yeah.
Like Rod Dreher is like legitimately weird.
Yeah, they've made Chapo's all well. Okay, I should say I listened to Chapo when they first, like in 2019 or whatever, because the only nice thing I'll say about them is that the kind of show that we do, I don't know if people did that before them, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
But anyway,
before them, you just had people that were professionals in the radio business.
Yeah, I mean that's probably not, like true, like completely. Like I'm sure there were other people, but like they popularized it anyway. Like I know people in real life who know who they are. But anyway, like they making fun of they made fun of Dreyer like constantly. He somebody who at the time I had never even heard of. I had no idea who Rod Dreyer was, and they would just like. I think Dave just talked about that in one of his live streams, right?
I've heard like he's still like a main character of their show. Like if on their forums, he's a like a meme. Like you can like in their if they're streaming on Twitch, you can hit the Rod Dreher button. You know what I mean?
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah. So, anyways, they put a lot of low status on the thing because Rod Dreher is like a fucking weirdo. So
it's easy to do because he's like a little a court eunuch for the for like progressivism. So like it's really easy because people like us you ride here and think, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So anyways, I think we're done. We had
Yeah.
we got a lot of stuff to edit. I'm gonna try to get something out tonight. What do we have to edit? We got at least 2 weeks of weekly stuff.
Yeah, I got the last week's live stream is mine. I don't know if either of us even touched the crazy 4-man thing that we had with Claudius and Malcolm.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're listening, don't tell anybody. We just did a we just did like a 3.5 hours with Claudius and Malcolm. It's pretty wild. That'll be out soon.
You had to stop the fight. You had to call it early. Malcolm was just gonna keep going. We'd still be doing that interview right now.
You know, Malcolm is kind of built for streaming. I mean, he doesn't stream a lot, but you know these like these guys like Hassan Piker and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't do that. Well, like what they'll do is like they just sit in a chair and we'll talk for like 6 hours.
That's crazy.
That's what Twitch is really built for.
Yeah.
You're supposed to just sit down in this chair and talk for like 6 hours.
Like people I did on the one we did with Peruvian Bull, someone who wasn't familiar with our show, who just I guess is a fan of him, was like, this looks interesting, but I have read audiobooks that were shorter than this podcast. I don't know about this. And I was just thinking, like, you have no idea, bro. You can get Malcolm could do a 6-hour stream.
Yeah.
He could do that. He could just,
Yeah. He's got it. So it says get Malcolm a bat to fight IRL. It's yes. Which by the way, like if you ever see any sort of beefs on Twitter and stuff, we've all prearranged that behind closed doors to sort of get drama clicks and stuff. Someone says Chapo's become genuinely funny to me now, rhetorical slapstick way, hearing them desperately trying to be Democrats and notice things but misname things they're noticing. Yeah, I've never really known enough about them to comment on them. I've heard from people that say they're legitimately powerful in sort of shaping the way that leftists think, and I've heard people say it's just entertainment and they don't really have any effect. I really have no idea, to be honest.
They have a good recipe, and they came along at the exact right moment. Like it was really easy to do what they do in 2016 during the primary, right? And I think I've mentioned it one time before, but when Trump won, they were doing they did their election live stream event, and like they were ready to cry, not just because Donald Trump won, but one of the guys, just the fat guy that you hate, just straight up said like, yeah, this ruins our business model, because like our job was supposed to be like pretending to be angry at Hillary Clinton, right? That was supposed to be our job, where we could be, the young Turks dissident type, and we can't do that now. But they adapted. Once you got the audience, I think you're set.
Yeah, the big fat guy, I think he's the most charismatic one, but I don't honestly, I don't really know any of the others, but I think that sort of reinforces my idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of breaking one of our rules. Used to have a rule where I wouldn't even say their name for a long time. Now we're just like, yeah.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who cares? All right, guys. Thanks for coming out. Everybody have a Merry Christmas.
Yep. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Good night.